Okay, picking up where we left off, we were looking at how to name. Before we were writing the formula from the name, now we're going to look at how to name it. Again, these are all ionic compounds because they start with a metal: strontium, aluminum, chromium, titanium. So just name the metal for what it is: strontium, aluminum, chromium, titanium. And then the nonmetal changed to ide. So strontium iodide. If there are more than two, it's got to be on that chart of polyatomic ion. So you just name it for what it is. You don't worry about charges. So this is aluminum sulfate if I looked up what SO4 is. Now, if it's a transition metal, you have to put in Roman numerals what the charge is. We'll just reverse crisscross it. Oxygen must have been a -2. Chromium must have been a +3. So I say chromium, in parentheses, Roman numeral 3, oxide, IDE ending. And then you can combine both of them. This is titanium, which is a 4+, so titanium 4 phosphate. And that's basically how you name ionic compounds. Covalent compounds, which is not probably the best way to say it, it's going to be a molecular compound, are going to be two nonmetals. Most people find these to be a little bit easier. You don't need to worry about charges. You don't need to worry about crisscrosses. But as soon as I know it's nonmetals, I use prefixes. And the prefixes end up coming before. That's what a prefix is. And then the ending of the second nonmetal is always I. So you have prefixes, and on the next slide I gave you a list of them. If it's only one atom, it's mono. Like as you'd look up here, monoxide, it's only one oxygen. If I want two oxygen, it's dioxide. Again, it's a prefix goes in. If I want three oxygen, it's trioxide. Notice if I had two nitrogen, I'd have to say dinitrogen trioxide. Mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca. It does go higher than that, but you never have to do any. 1 through 10 are the ones that you basically should memorize and have those down. So if you go back to looking just examples, and didn't have you do any here, but carbon, there's only one of them. So you say carbon disulfide must have meant there were two. Sulfur hexafluoride. Well, that must mean there's 6 fluorine. Hexa was 6. Dinitrogen means there's 2 nitrogen, and penta, which is 5, is there's 5 oxygen. So if we look at just some examples, carbon tetrabromide, well, it's C is carbon. Bromide is Br. Tetra stands for 4. So it's CBr4. Sulfur difluoride. Sulfur's S. Fluorine's F, but it's di, so there's 2 of them, SF2. Dichlorine is Cl2. Oxide is oxygen, so it's O. Hepta, which is going to be 7. So C2 or Cl2O7. Going the opposite way, we got 1 carbon, so we just say carbon, and then 2 is dioxide. Phosphorus, trichloride, and then dinitrogen, monoxide, because there's only one of them. If there's one in the first one, you never have to give any prefix, but if there's a number 2, 3, 4, or whatever, you do have to give the prefix in front. And then don't forget the monoxide. A lot of people want to say dinitrogen oxide. Again, to identify acids, when you look at acids, we said at the beginning, it's got to have an H in front. But that's when you're identifying what the symbol is. If I'm looking at the name, it will always have the word acid in it. So they're real easy to identify. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid. I know what's got to go in front, an H. So we're going to have, when we're writing the formula, we have to put an H in front because we know those are acids. Now, there are going to be 2 types of acids that can form. Binary, which means binary means 2, so there's only 2 elements. And that would come from the idea that we would have a nonmetal at the end, and its ending would be ide, right? So if I was just to look at Cl by itself, I'd say, oh, that's chloride. So if it's an IDE ending, it's binary. Oxyacids are going to be non-binary, which means they're going to be one of those polyatomic ions from the chart we learned earlier. And those are going to end in ate or ite, depending on if it's an ATE ending or an ITE ending will change the name of those. So, first of all, identify what it is, put an H in